Oh, welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you with me this evening, right at 7 p.m. on the East Coast. Yep, I am here again. And I know you're saying, Larry, I just saw you twice yesterday and you're on again. I know I'm a glutton for punishment. I am on again. And someone had asked me to react to something, a guy named Gary Stevenson. And you may or may not know who he is. Gary Stevenson is a British economist. And he talks, or Irish, I think British economist, who talks often about taxing the rich. He thinks it's very important. He is very much anti-billionaire, and he thinks that we can fix our issues by taxing the rich. One of his biggest issues is wealth inequality, which, to be forward, this is a real issue. That's absolutely true. Wealth inequality is a big issue. I agree completely on that. The question is, will taxing the rich repair that or fix that or make it better? And according to him, yes, it absolutely will. The question is, will it actually do it? And I wasn't really sure what his logic was. He seems, from the things that I'd seen, to be a very smart person. So I don't think he's just pulling stuff out of thin air. It's really based on something real or something maybe impressive, I guess. I assume that to be true. So I'm going to kind of talk about it and see, where is this guy's head, right? Where is he going? And as I went through and looked at some of the things that he talks about, he's no dummy, and he's a different way of looking at things. But what he does often is he kind of dodges some things sometimes. I'll say that. He sometimes dodges things. Doesn't answer the question exactly how I would like him to. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. Let me, if I could, go ahead and show you one of his videos that talks about taxing the rich and how he's going to fix all our problems by doing so. Absolutely. All righty.
Okay, welcome back to Gary's Economics. Today we are going to talk about giving your money to the government. All right, so I wanted to do a quick one addressing one of the most common questions, criticisms we get on the channel, which is, why do you want to increase taxes? All that money is going to go to government.
True.
Government is full of corrupt idiots. They're going to steal my money. They're going to waste my money. It's a waste of time. Don't do it. Gary, you're a communist.
Yes, yes, and yes on all the things. So he will now immediately say, none of that's true, correct?
And I thought this was an interesting one to talk about because...
Didn't deny it. Okay. Well, there we go. If someone had told me that, I kind of would want to deny that, but I guess he doesn't. No worries.
There's a kind of a perception when I say that I want to tax the rich more, that I must necessarily be wanting to give more money to the government. I must be wanting to increase the size of government. And I think this is a good chance basically to show that this is not what I'm trying to do. So when I talk about taxing the rich, first thing to say is,
what do you think?
I'm talking about taxing the very rich here. This is not about taxing.
That makes it better. Okay. You're talking about taxing the very rich. That makes it better.
Very likely not about taxing you, not about taxing your kids. It's not about taxing
not taxing
lawyers or even bankers or people who are making sort of 100, 200 grand a year. We're talking about taxing extremely wealthy individuals with wealth of more than 10 million pounds.
Got it. So 10 million pounds, that's the cutoff. So if you make 10 million pounds a year, I guess in America, that'd be like $10 million, give or take in that area, then we tax you. Okay, at least we're clear. We got a number. That's what makes you rich. All right. So Kim, you are wondering what makes you rich. That's the number. The number is 10 million. So now we're clear. All right.
And what we want to do is to tax them. So that we can lower your taxes. This is not really about increasing the size of government at all. What I see.
Okay. So they're going to pay all the taxes and we're not.
Is a situation where ordinary families are increasingly losing their wealth. And that wealth is flowing to the very, very rich.
True.
And I'm trying to see how is it that we can, number one, protect your family from losing its wealth. And number two, help your family get its wealth back. And I think this is...
So he's not wrong, right? That has been happening. But what was there were a couple of the biggest wealth transfers that happened in America, and I think across the world. And they were in 2020, 2021. What happened then? And in 2009, 2010. What happened then? In both of those cases, government intervention. I'm not making that up. You know it's true. Government intervention is what caused it more than anything else, right? Government bailouts. Bailouts to the wealthy, bailouts to the banks, and not bailing out the individual people. Shutting down businesses during the lockdown, small businesses, and making it so easy and simple for everyone to go ahead and to buy from Amazon and to buy from, and giving all the money to the big boy. Yes, that's true. He's not wrong with what he's saying. He's wrong with what his answer is. They didn't get all rich because they're just rich, evil people. I mean, some of them are obviously, but that's not why. It was government assistance that made it worse. Government blocking of people, government stopping a little guy getting bigger. That's what actually happened. There's evidence of that everywhere. You can see when the biggest transfers of wealth happened is when the government intervened. So I gave myself intervened again, but now we say I'm just going to take the money back and I'm going to give it to people. Okay, I guess.
It's an interesting thing to talk about because what is happening here is quite counterintuitive. And when I say we want to tax...
Now, he's been talking for about 2 minutes and said almost nothing, but that's fine. This guy's popular. He's like really popular. I keep getting shocked on how popular people are who actually aren't that talented. I'm doing something wrong, I guess, huh? I got to start saying tax the rich or something. Maybe I'm just saying the wrong stuff.
The rich. People think immediately more taxation means more taxation for me, less money for me.
Because we tried that before. See, this is the reason why. We tried this before. What actually happened, right? What actually happened is people back in the initial days of the income tax. That's what he literally said, right? That's what he literally said. He literally said, the government literally said, we are going to just tax the wealthy. That's how our income tax in America first started. Some of us don't know this, but that's true. Only the wealthy. I think it was $1 million or more, whatever the number was. That was it. Only the wealthy, only a couple percent. That's all. And within 40 years, everyone's being taxed hugely. Yeah, that changed. We don't believe you. That's the issue. We don't believe you.
Less money and wealth for me and my family. And instead, that money and wealth going to the government. And people think that Gary's a big government guy. Gary is a communist.
Yes, and you haven't said no yet.
What this is about getting your wealth back. And I think that's...
Well, that's kind of what the communists said, didn't they, in Russia? They were like, you guys are in trouble, so we're going to show up and we're going to give you all your money back. And they went, how? We're going to kill all the rich people and we're going to make it Russia communist. And they went, that sounds great. I love that. Let's do that. That's a good idea. Will we get food? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you can get food, but we'll get rid of rich people. That's what they said before.
It's an interesting concept, right? That we can...
No, it's not we've done this before, like more than once.
Increase tax, and in increasing tax, we can get your wealth back. So I wanted to just go through the basic logic of how it can be that increasing tax can make you richer, because that is...
I'm going to get rich when we increase tax. He said that. Let's not forget this. He just said that.
Ultimately, what I'm trying to do here, assuming that you are not a super rich person and you are from an ordinary family, I want to increase tax to make you richer, your family.
This guy loves me. Individual. Okay, make me rich. My family.
So how does this work?
How's it work?
The first and most obvious way is if we increase taxation on the super rich, we can reduce your taxes.
Oh, so that sounds amazing. That's happened. Oh wait, never. Huh? That's happened never. Okay, maybe he's the first guy to do this then, because that's never happened. We've increased taxes on the wealthy. We have done it before, but then everyone else got taxes raised or kept the same, every time. We didn't do that, what he just said, raise tax on the rich and then lowered it on, we didn't, that's not a thing we've done. In over 100 years that we've had taxation, income tax, I should say, we haven't done that. I don't know how we do that. Okay, but he has the answer. Okay, go ahead, brother, do it.
At the moment, we have a tax system which taxes working people at a very high rate. You know, I worked and I made quite a lot of money, and I was paying more than 50% tax at the time.
I know the feeling.
But it taxes extremely wealthy families, extremely wealthy individuals at a rate often close to 0%.
Okay, you're exaggerating on that one. That's actually not true. Now, do the wealthy often pay less than the middle class by percentage? Often true. That part he's right, but 0% is an exaggeration. I think the average pays like 20% or something like that, but it's less. It's lower. He's right. But the difference is their income comes from different sources. The more detailed of an income tax you create, which is what we did, the more loopholes we create. They create the loopholes, and that's how they get away with it. For those who don't know, the government has been basically paying the same, has been getting the same percentage of money since they started income tax. It doesn't really change very much, no matter what we do, because as we go to tax the wealthy more, they just change the system, and they don't get paid as much. So yeah,
these guys have an enormous amount of wealth. They generate an enormous amount of income from that wealth.
True.
They don't pay tax. If we tax them much more.
Now, this is a lie. It's like they don't pay tax. Zero. It's not a thing, right? This is something that people, it sounds good. It's not, plus they don't just pay income tax. They pay all types of tax. I'm not saying the rich shouldn't pay taxes. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he's acting like the super rich pay no tax. That's simply demonstrably false. But it feels good to say, I guess, because I guess it makes people feel good and go, yeah, it's just not true.
We can reduce your taxes. This means more money in your pocket. This means more money going to you.
But then I might get super rich. Then you tax me.
Now, I'm not instinctively a big government person, but we do exist at the moment in this country, the UK, at the end of 15 years of austerity, which has really starved a lot of government services of money, especially if you look at things like local government services, even things like the police, education, massively starved of money.
Okay, but that's not been true here in America, particularly in New York. Our police force is not starved of money at all. New York City's police force has a $6 billion budget. Yes, with a B. The police force budget of New York City is higher than some budgets of an entire state. Just the police force. So not starved. We spend billions on education in New York State, the highest by percentage of any state, and our education is not great. So just because you throw money at it doesn't mean that it gets better. So Michael says Elon Musk paid like $14 billion in 1 year for capital gains on Tesla shares. I think 2022. That makes sense. Now, I don't know what percentage that is. That may be a lower percentage than you or I, Michael. And his point may be true, that his point may be accurate, that the rich pay less by percentage. That may be true. I don't think that's false at all. But that's not what he said. He said they pay no tax or close to zero. 14 billion is not no tax or close to zero, right? So he is saying things that he's being hyperbolic, or he's just lying on purpose. That part bothers me. If he's unsure, he should say that, or say the truth. They pay a lower percentage. Correct, because they're able to find loopholes and have accountants who have them pay less by percentage. True, but 14 billion is still a lot of money. That's all I'm saying.
It's like the legal system, the court system, anyone who works anywhere, especially in local services, will see massive starvation of money. So I think at this point, you probably would want to use some of that money to help fund local services, which have been decimated in the last 15, 20 years. What this means is less money for the rich, more money for you because your taxes are reduced, more money for local services.
Yeah, but when has the taxes been reduced? I don't remember the taxes being reduced. What happens if you raise taxes on the rich? Government goes, wow, we have all this extra money because all the rich people just rolled over and let us tax them and threw us extra money. So you know what we're going to do? We are going to lower taxes on the poor. Never. You're going to say, we got a windfall of money. Let's start a third war. That's what's going to happen. Let's bomb more people. That's what we're going to do. When have we ever done this?
So you won't have to pay for things which you're currently paying for because they'll be provided by the government.
Oh, okay. He just said, and a minute ago, I'm not a big government guy. Then he says, you don't have to pay for things because they're being provided for by the government. Now, if the things that he said now aren't being provided for, the government will provide for, that means a bigger government, which means no one's taxes are getting reduced. So what he's saying is tax the rich so we can have more programs for more people. That's not making me rich. that's making more programs. Now, again, if you think that's a good idea, I get it. That's not what he said before. This guy's popular.
You have more money in your pocket. Local workers around you.
How am I going to have more money in my pocket when you just gave it to the government for these special programs I'm supposed to love?
You have more money in their pocket because government are trying to hire staff, trying to improve the public service, which have been decimated for a long time. It means you'll have more money, people around you have more money, you will be able to spend that money, people around you will be able to spend that money, which means your wages will go up. So
he's just made this up. I wish I was joking. He's just made this up. I guess in theory, if you tax the wealthy so much that you could, I guess you tax the wealthy so much that you could reduce the other taxes and still increase all these services. That's a whole lot of tax. I don't think the wealthy will stay for that.
See, number one, your wages go up. Number two, your taxes go down. And that means more wealth in your pocket. Now,
this sounds amazing. If I was watching this and didn't know any better, I'd be like, this guy's a genius. Let's just do that. It does sound good. It's literally never happened. It's made up. I can't imagine it happening. I don't know where this is coming from.
There's another channel by which increasing taxation on the rich will make you richer.
Okay,
it's also quite interesting, counterintuitive.
Okay.
Which is if you increase tax on the very rich, people with wealth of 10 million, 100 million, billion, massively.
That's it. Massively.
You will enforce rich people selling their assets. Now, if you tax them really, really high, and to be honest, I think at this point, wealth inequality has become so large and is growing so quickly, you really do need to tax these people really massively. If you were to tax them a lot, you could put them in a situation where they have to sell their assets.
Wow. So listen what he just said. He said he wants to tax you so much that you have to sell your assets. That you, as a wealthy person, as Elon Musk, right? As Michael's assuming he's correct, Elon Musk could afford to pay $14 billion. So he wants to tax Elon Musk so much that he can't afford to pay his taxes. So he's got to like sell Tesla or something, or he's got to sell something, right? Because he can't pay his taxes. So he's going to, triple his taxes massively. So Elon's got to pay, I don't know, $42 billion in taxes, and he can't afford it. So he's got to sell Tesla stock. So he's got to, he's got to sell his company, or he's got to sell a building that he's in, or he's got, he's got to do some kind of thing like that. Okay. Let's assume he's correct. And tomorrow, the Congress passes a law. Everyone who makes $10 million or more, your taxes are tripled, right? Because that's what he said. He wants so much. Again, his words. I don't want to straw man him. I go out of my way to not straw man. I use their words. Massively, his words. So they're forced, he said, to sell their assets. All right, so you do that. I love it. First off, they're all going to just take that. So Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, the Walmart family, and all the $10 million people, that's half the bankers on Wall Street. They're just going to sit there and take it. They're not going to literally just say, we're going to pack the New York Stock Exchange up and leave. Are you doing that nationally or by state? Doing it by state, the state will empty. I know this is already happening in New York, and we haven't gone there yet. Andrew Cuomo, my former governor, tried something like this. What he did was he said he was going to tax the wealthy in a different way. He said, we're not going to tax your income. We're going to tax all your transaction fees. He said we're going to tax financial transaction fees. And every time the stock market gets a transaction, New York's going to take a cut. Small cut, but a cut. The cut would have equaled billions of dollars. Billions over all imagine all the transactions being done at the New York Stock Exchange every day. I mean, how many? I don't know, millions? How many, right? Small cut every day. Boom. New York Stock Exchange threatened to pack up and move to Miami. I'm not joking. They said, I'm sorry, they didn't. That's why they were going to move to Austin, not Miami, Austin. They were going to pack up and move to Austin. Yes. Goldman Sachs says, we'll pack up, we'll move to Miami. Goldman Sachs is going to move to Miami. New York Stock Exchange is going to move to Austin. What's the common denominator between Florida and Texas? No income tax. Yes, no income tax. That was the common denominator. They were going to leave. This guy said, I'm going to triple your taxes, quadruple them. So you got to start selling stuff because you can't pay. They're going to stay. That means it's got to be a national piece. If it's national, what will happen? They'll pack up and leave. How do I know that? They're already doing it. The UK is bleeding millionaires. I'm not joking. They're bleeding millionaires. They're leaving every day. Gone. Leaving. There's a guy, if you go on YouTube, called Nomad Capitalist. Some of you may know who he is. This guy literally does YouTube videos on how to go someplace else where you can get better taxes. That's how common it is. Yes. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. It sounds good.
I think a lot of people see this instinctively as a bad thing. It's often an argument that is made. You should.
Yes. Agreed.
Then tax the rich a lot because maybe they're not that cash rich. Maybe they're just holding lots of assets. And if you tax them a lot, they'll have to sell their assets. Increasingly, as wealth inequality grows, a bigger and bigger share of the national wealth, of national assets, are owned by the very rich.
Yes, but why? Yes, that's true. He's not wrong, right? His data is correct. Absolutely true. His data is correct. But he's not at all explaining why it happened or realistically how to fix it, right? Just imagine his answer is, we'll just take your shit. That's his answer.
Now, if you are very rich, say...
to be clear, he never denied he was a communist. Just saying. He burped twice, never denied it. He's not denying.
You have a wealth of 100 million pounds, or let's say 500 million pounds, like Rishi Sunak, according to the Sunday Times. You will generate a passive income of 25 million pounds a year.
Okay.
2 million pounds a month.
So you would generate, according to him, if you had half $1 million in assets, this is what he's saying, you would generate $2 million per month in passive income. Okay, I got that. Good for you. I hope one day I can generate $2 million in passive income. In fact, if any of you generate $2 million a month in passive income, then if you do that, you need to become a member. That's all I'm saying. So anyone right now who is generating $2 million in passive income right now, if you are, head on over to Sharpe YouTube and become a member. It's $5. You're generating $2 million a month. You could do $5, right? $4.99. Click that join button, become a member. Or you guys making $2 million a month. Or go to Rumble if you prefer Rumble. Either way, do that. $4.99 per month. Please do that. And if you want your chat to go right to the front, super chat me on YouTube or rant me on Rumble, and you can do a $5 super chat. You're making $2 million a month. You can do that. It's fine. But say you're not making $2 million a month, and I'm sad if some of you aren't. I hope you all are. No worries. You can still click the like button. That's free. You don't have to be making $2 million a month. But if you are, member. If you're not, you can also click the like button. Lima, India, Kilo, Echo, please do so. You can also do something else. You can share this into another group. You can share it into a Facebook group. Share it on X. You can share it someplace else. You can share it wherever you want. Absolutely. You can also follow me, also free. Follow me on X, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Rumble. You can follow me on all those if you want to. Absolutely. You can also, to help me out, subscribe on Sharpeware YouTube and click all notifications so you get the notifications every single time we do so. Joel over on Rumble has ranted me. $1, thank you. The fair tax would work better than tariffs for made in America business growth. True. China would hate the fair tax. Also, trillions in offshore dollars would come back here tax-free and be invested here. You're not wrong, Joel. I like the fair tax compared to tariffs. Yes, I obviously would prefer no tax, but yes, fair tax is better than tariffs. I would agree with you. It is definitely a better choice if I have an option between those two. Yes. So yes. So again, we'll go back to this guy. You make $2 million a month. Okay, great. Now what?
If the wealth is being held by people who have a passive income of £2 million per month, they will never sell anything. If you had a large amount of wealth,
they'll never sell anything. You just said, if you make $2 million a month, you'll never sell anything. He just said that. Does anybody happen to know what is currently the largest chunk of investments of people who are billionaires? Real estate. Used to be, not anymore. Right now, the largest is actually in private equity. Private equity is making huge chunks now in AI and technology. That's a big push for them. Now, private equity does also do real estate here or there. It does. Used to do a lot more. It doesn't anymore. Now, wait a minute. If it doesn't anymore, it's changed. What is that? What happened to all that real estate? They used to have a lot more in real estate. Now they don't. What happened? Oh, wait, they sold it. But he said, his words, you'll never sell anything. Yeah, I just explained to you that clearly they sell lots of things. They have to become liquid sometimes. When they become liquid, what do? They sell things. That's what they do. See, buying and selling is how they make money. They have these assets. They don't just keep it. The concept of I'll just keep all my money and make $2 million a year. Well, I guess maybe if you're retired, maybe, and you don't want to do this anymore, and you're 70, and you're like, look, I'm just going to keep my stuff till I drop dead. Maybe. That's just not true. He is literally just making this up. It's not true. It sounds great. So again, if I don't know any better, I go, oh yeah, they're just sitting on stuff and we're all making money. No. Mike has bad and he says he is lying or he's ignorant. He's not ignorant. He's actually smart. He's a trader. He writes stuff. He's not smart. I mean, he's not dumb. He's smart. Yes. That's not how that works. Yes, absolutely. So let me just keep going here.
You're making £2 million a month. Why would you ever sell any of your assets? You're making £2 million a month. You never need to sell anything. So increasing.
Okay. There's a difference between do they do it or do you need to do it? He's right. If you made anybody in this country, in this world, no matter where you live, if you were generating $2 million in passive income per month, he is correct. You have no need to sell anything. That's true. Doesn't mean you won't. Doesn't mean you won't. You may want to become looking for something else. You may want to keep growing. You may want to buy some. Who knows? This is silly. This is silly.
We are in a situation where the assets are owned by people who never have to sell any assets.
Okay, yes, they never have. Wealthy people don't have to even do anything. Elon Musk doesn't have to do anything, but he does. Jeff Bezos doesn't have to do anything, but he does. I know lots of people. Look, Mike Voss is watching. He used to be on Wall Street. He knew lots of people with lots of money who still did stuff. He acts like once you make $2 million a month, you just basically roll up in a corner and die. Who does that? You know, to someone who has that kind of mindset to create that kind of cash flow, they don't just stop. He's making this. Why doesn't he stop? Why is he making videos? He's still making videos. He should stop. He makes that kind of money.
If that is the situation, obviously working people like you, like your kids, like your parents, will never be able to afford assets. If you want work,
okay, they can now. Look what he keeps saying. This guy just exaggerates. I see why he's popular now.
To afford assets like housing.
Okay, he's explained. Now I know why he's popular. He just speaks nothing but hyperbole. He just makes stuff up and just goes basically capitalism bad, even though he literally made all his money for capitalism. Okay, that's why.
It is essential that the current owners of assets at some point sell their assets.
Yes.
If you give all the assets to people that never sell assets, it will be impossible for working people without assets.
Yes. Okay. Two things. Number one, this is why he's utterly wrong. Number one, first off, in theory, that would be true, right? But first off, none of that's happening. Why are we giving all our assets, his words, if you give them, so I guess we just gave it all to them. They're just lucky they got it because none of them work hard. It's lucky. If we give their assets to people who will never sell them, which doesn't, these people don't exist that he made up. So if we, in this fantasy world, give to fantasy people, then the fantasy will happen. True. But it's the second piece that he doesn't even make any sense with. You could just make more assets. Right? Like, is there a finite amount of assets that now all the wealthy own? No. New businesses get built all the time. New houses get built. Right? New land gets developed every day across the world. So new assets are made constantly, right? We find new gold. We find more diamonds. We find more rare earth minerals. We find them, more assets, right? We make new software. We create more intellectual property. We create more videos, more assets, right? So we create new assets every day. I'm making one now. I wish it was more valuable, but I'm making one right now as we speak. So what he's saying is literally garbage. It's not true. It's some magical world. I don't know what he's talking about. So Mike was here. Mike used to be in the Wall Street. He's going to say it right here. Every multi-million client I had worked every day for some company, another private business. Few were retired. Correct, Mike. I knew Mike was. If he knew that, I knew he would. Yes, Mike's been through this. They don't just okay. I'm done. I guess I'm making $2 million. That's the number that Gary said. So I'm now going to lay around and play video games all day. I guess that's it. Michael, thank you for $2, my friend. That British guy sounds more like a scam, Larry. Agreed. Yeah, but his videos get hundreds of thousands of views. Why aren't mine? I'm jealous. I gotta start saying crap like him, I guess. Is that what I gotta do? So the thing, maybe that's the answer.
This is how things work. It's impossible to buy a thing if nobody is selling a thing.
Or you could make a thing. And yes, it's impossible to buy a thing if nobody's selling, correct? But when is that ever true? I don't get this.
It's vital in order to get things like housing back into the hands of ordinary working families that the owners of assets sell their assets.
You could just build more houses, right? You could just build more houses, couldn't you? Maybe I'm wrong here.
At the moment, the super rich have enormous passive incomes. They never sell anything.
Sure.
We need them.
Here you said it again. The wealthy never sell anything. Can anyone tell me, find any data that shows that the wealthy never sell anything, which he said more than once?
To sell their assets. So for me, taxing the super rich is not about growing government. It's definitely not about moving us to a communist state. Taxing the rich is about rebalancing essentially power and ownership in our society. At the moment, both government and the middle class are losing their wealth rapidly to the rich. The only way to get that back is through taxation.
The only
way? Tax them
way?
more, we can tax you less, you'll have more money, the rich will be selling assets. That means you and your kids can have assets, you can own things, you can be rich. We're not going to get assets into the hands of ordinary working people unless we take them out of the hands of the people who own everything. And the only way
So he literally is saying we have to force these wealthy people into giving their stuff up. That's kind of communism, isn't it? We have to force redistribute everything. He's a communist. It's fine. I mean, look, some people believe it and buy it. I get it. No worries.
That is through taxation. So for me, taxation is about growing the assets and the wealth of ordinary working people. And I would like to sort of
is what it is.
Get you to see taxation in a new light. Taxation has been given a terrible brand, largely by rich people because they don't want to pay it. Taxation is how you defend yourself. Taxation is how you get wealth back from the group that is taking your wealth.
I defend myself with
And I kind of want increasingly for you to see taxation as kind of a tool you can use in essentially a war. Now, when you have a war, when you have an invading army, why do people invade countries? Why do people start wars? Because they want to take the assets. And what is happening in your country? Assets that used to be owned by the middle class, that used to be owned by the government, are over time being owned by the rich and the super rich.
Okay, that part's true again.
War is about taking assets. Your assets will not be owned.
Yeah, but you're asking the government, in this fictitious case, that the government should decide, the government that made the system to ensure the wealthy keep getting wealthier and is now run by the wealthy, that they should now change, just give all the stuff, take it all away now, and give it to the not wealthy. Well, then why would there be more wealthy? It wouldn't work. Yeah, Andrew says, who took the gold before World War II? Yeah, that wasn't the rich. That was government. That was 100%. Mike has bad news says, you can be rich so that we can take from you and give to someone else. Accurate statement. Yes. And he's like, this is a good idea.
By your kids or your grandkids. They'll be owned by the kids and the grandkids of the super rich.
See that?
They are an invading army. The only tool you have to defend yourself is taxation. So if you tax the rich, we can get money in your pocket, we can get assets to your kids and your grandkids. If you don't tax the rich, inequality will grow more and more. And your grandkids will be poor. So
if you don't tax the rich, your grandkids are going to be poor. That's what this guy just said. And you might go, Larry, is this guy really popular? Okay, he has 1.2 million subscribers. I would say yes, he's popular. 1.2 million subscribers. I wish I had 1.2 million subscribers. I don't. So yeah, and this video itself got 91,000 views. So he's doing something right. I'm just saying it. I mean, I'm doing something wrong. Now, I would think that, is it possible? Now, here's a second video. And he talks about how we can do it. Now, this is another part. He doesn't explain how to tax them. So the assumption is that we tax them in income tax. But then he goes to another short video. He goes, that's not really how you have to do it. And I'm like, okay, I thought you're going to lower our taxes and raise their taxes. But he kind of changed his mind on this one. This is something he did before. This was years ago, but he says, if you want to hear about it, you should watch this next video. So this is a short one, but this is how he talks about his plan, because he got a plan. This is his plan on how he's going to make this thing work. Okay, Gary, I'm listening to his plan. Again, 1.2 million subscribers, just to be clear.
Gary's Economics, and today we're going to talk about tax.
There we go. We're going to talk about tax. We are ready to go now. Tell us about tax.
Okay,
Gary.
so today I'm going to talk about one of the most common questions I get on the channel, which is, okay, you want to tax rich people. Well, if you tax them, they're just going to leave. Okay, so this is relatively easy to deal with. But before I just take that question on, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that, in a sense, it's progress we're even talking about this. Because when I first started talking about tax, what I would often get back is, you can't tax rich people. Rich people are the lifeblood of the economy. It's very important for the economy that don't tax rich people. I think it's becoming increasingly.
Okay, no one said, no one, and when I say this again, no one has said, you can't tax rich people. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. No one says that. They're the lifeblood of the country. You can't tax them. He made that up. This guy is constantly making things up. Now, they might say you shouldn't tax them more or less. That's true, but that's not what he said. What he said is, you can't tax the rich. I get that all the time. That's a lie. He does not get that. People don't, no one's walking up to him in the street. Gary, you can't tax the rich people. No one says that. He's made that up.
Increasingly obvious to people that what is happening with the economy now is not working. The vast majority of people want something done about inequality.
True.
But it goes to this question of, well, maybe you can't tax them. I think it's a sign of progress that people have accepted now we should tax them. That moves us onto this question of, well, can you tax them?
Yes. Roy says, people literally say taxation step. Yes, but it's not, you can't tax the rich people. That will be, you can't tax anybody. Right? And I don't say that, by the way, but that's fine. People do say it, you're right. But they're not saying you can't tax the rich people. They're saying you can't tax anybody. What he said was, you can't tax rich people. That's not true, Roy. He is being disingenuous. That's not what people say at all. Yes. Michael says, thank you for $2, Michael. Comrade Gary wants to redistribute wealth with a gun. He does. That's true. He does. But he sounds nice when he says it. So at least I feel better, I guess. I think. Kinda. I guess I kind of feel better because he says it with a nice accent. So I guess that's good, right?
And if you tax them, are they going to just leave, basically?
Yep.
So this idea that if you tax rich people, they will leave is actually based on
what?
A misunderstanding, essentially, of what rich people are.
It's a misunderstanding. See that? You guys thought that the rich people who are literally leaving UK in droves, millions of them are leaving. And there's video upon video on it, data all over the place. And to be forward, the IRS in America has already stated that New York State loses about $20 billion a year in income through migration, meaning people leaving the state. $20 billion per year. This is government numbers. I'm not making these up. You can look at yourself if you want to. IRS states that's what happened. And he's saying they'll just leave. They kind of are. Like, there's data that shows they are.
So I think we have this kind of conception that rich people are just sort of really talented, amazing guys who have massive, massive bank accounts or massive bags of cash, which means if you raise taxes on them, they can take their money to another country. They can take this big bag of cash and they can just leave.
Yes. Yes. People think that because they've watched it happen. It physically happens. Yes.
But this is not actually what rich people are. And I explain this a lot in my video, What is Wealth? Rich people are rich not just because they've got a lot of money. Often they do have a lot of money. The main thing they have which makes them rich is that they own assets. In this country, the UK, but also in most rich countries, that's largely property. So we're talking about buildings. This could be flats and houses people live in, or it could be the mortgage you have on your flat that you live in, but also commercial property. So they'll own the skyscrapers, they'll own the shops and the restaurants, they'll own the buildings, they'll own the shopping centers. They'll also own the land, the farmland, they'll own the natural resources. So, if you see those windmills that generate electricity, or we've got offshore oil rigs here in this country, they own all of these things, the natural resources, the buildings, the land, and
all true. Love it. All true. He is correct. Yes.
Every single time you use one of those things, so every time you live in a house or a flat, every time you go to work in an office, every time you shop in a shopping center, every time you eat food that was grown on the land, you pay money to these rich people. It's very important to understand this. Rich people are rich because they own the assets that we need to live.
He's not wrong. I get it. You went way out going, they own stuff. You said it last time too. I'm with you. It's true. Yes. 100% true. Joel, who is over on Rumble, thank you for being a member, Joel, says, equity. Government can't make us all wealthy, but they can make us all poor and equally poor. Yes, but there will always be an elite class that will not be poor. But yes, all of us, the other people, that's true. But some people are always going to be more equal than others. There we go.
And once you understand this, you realize that this idea that the rich will just leave is a little bit ridiculous, right? Because
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He just said ridiculous.
If the rich people leave, and the reason they're rich is because they own all of our assets. Well, the assets are still here, and we can still choose to tax those assets if we choose to.
Okay. See, so what he said is the rich will just leave, and that's dumb. It's ridiculous. They will leave. But then he says, if they leave, we can still tax the assets. Okay, but then they still leave, don't they? So he didn't actually stop them from leaving. So he says ridiculous, but it's still true. He just says, let them leave. We'll just tax their assets. Okay, at least that does make sense. And that's what he should have said. He should have said, if the rich leave, no worries, we can just tax their assets. And then we can still get the money. That would be an accurate statement. But he didn't say that. He said them leaving is ridiculous. Even though a simple Google search will show you that people, in fact, you know what? I'm going to actually just do it because I am bothered by this. I'm getting a little triggered. I shouldn't get triggered. I know. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little triggered though, because it's just so damn dumb. And it is, I'm going to put millionaires leaving. If I could spell leaving right. Wow. I just put millionaires LE, and the first thing popping up says millionaires leaving the UK. Yes. AI overview. This is from AI Google. First thing popped up in 2024, over 10,000 millionaires left the UK. 10,000. Yes. According to the IMI Daily, 10,800 left the UK. Yes. A 157% increase. Yes, over the year before. They are fleeing like there's no tomorrow. 10,000 of them. Yes, I'm going to swap this and I'm going to put in NY for New York and see what it says. Yes, also seeing New York too. Yes, not as bad as it was. Many of them have already moved out, but there was a surge. Yes, there was a surge in movement, but not as bad. So UK is losing people more than New York is. Wow. So yes, they are still leaving, but not as bad. But they are still leaving. There we go. So only several thousand millionaires are leaving New York State. So it looks as though about 2,000 to 3,000 leave every year. I'm sorry, New York City. 2,000 to 3,000 millionaires leave New York City every year. 2,000 to 3,000. So not as crazy, not as bad, but not as bad as you get. But they are leaving. So he said it was silly. It was a dumb thing, and then admits that it's actually true, but it doesn't matter because we'll tax their assets. Okay, that's your plan. Let's talk about your planning. Tax or assets. How are we going to do that?
I think the best example of this, and
tell me,
perhaps the only positive thing to have come out of this ridiculous Russia-Ukraine war is that finally governments decided that we're going to tax some rich people, specifically in this case, Russian oligarchs. And very famously, they went after Roman Abramovich. And Roman Abramovich, he tried to leave, but the problem is, like, he can't put Chelsea Football Club in a bag and take it with him. And this is the fundamental problem of rich people. Rich people are not, these people are not magic, you know. These guys are not Gandalf the wizard. They don't just have richness like in their blood. They're rich because they own our assets. And even if they leave, the assets are still here. And we can choose to tax those assets. So at the moment, we live largely in a tax system where...
Okay, let's assume that he doesn't do the first part he said, which was the income tax. He doesn't do that. He says, we're just going to tax their assets. So for a moment, let's say he says, these rich people, they all own these assets, right? When tax these assets. That's what he just said. Great. So now this building that's worth whatever, $10 million, I'm making that number up, $10 million, they're going to tax it. Well, the rent used to be $2,000 a month. Well, if I'm getting taxed, and he said earlier, like 3 times as much, you're going to tax it so much, that building so much, that now my rent just went up to $3,000. Is the rich person who has left, because he admits they leave, the rich person who goes to Florida or goes to the Cayman Islands or goes to Malta or goes wherever they go, right? Wherever they leave, they go to whatever, some other place. When they go there, they still collect their rents, don't they? So now the government taxes their assets. Awesome. Who's going to pay for that? The people paying the rent. So what you've just done is you've just raised the rent of the middle class and the working class you love so much. If I'm rich, I'm still getting my cut. I'm living in Malta and I'm getting my cut. That's not changing. Now you paying more rent. This guy's an economist. This guy's an economist who says he's not a communist. And he said in the last video, we're going to force people to sell their assets. Okay, great. So now this rich person goes, I can't afford this building anymore because nobody can pay the rent. So I'm going to sell it. So he sells it. Who's going to sell to? Who's going to buy it? It's taxed like there's no tomorrow. Nobody's going to want to buy it. What's he going to do? Give it to the government? Yes, you are, aren't you? But you're not a communist, Gary? What's the option? If he taxes it so much that the middle class and the working class can't rent anything in that building, and that's what Gary's saying, so the guy has to sell it, right? That's what Gary's saying. Well, then none of the middle class or the working class people can get ahead because they can't have assets to use so they can get ahead. They can't get assets, so they can't buy it. They can't pay the rent. What happens to that building? It gets auctioned off. If it gets auctioned off, 2 other people get it. The government gets it, or some other wealthy person who has the highest bidder. So now you've actually lowered the price of the building for the next wealthy person. Or it goes to the government, in which case now it's communism. This is not a victory. This is not a victory. If any of you think I'm wrong or doing it, tell me. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it sounds good. This is what I tell you often. Left-leaning rhetoric is very often very good. I know some of you who are more right-leaning don't like to hear that, but it's true. This is good rhetoric. This sounds great. Like you're hearing it. If you're not paying attention, this sounds amazing. Yeah, we'll tax those guys and then we'll still get our money. Sounds amazing. It just will not work at all. That makes no sense, but it does sound good. So yeah. Mike, thank you for the $5, my friend. He just said that they're rich because they own our assets. Correct. Or they own our assets. Yeah, yes. I don't know how that works, but yeah, he's not communist, Mike. He's not communist. Stop saying that. He's just utterly communist. Yes. Kim goes on and say, thank you, Kim. Or China buys it. Accurate. The government gets it. China gets it. Or some other rich guy gets it. Right? And then whatever the tax is, great. They pay the tax to the government and they raise the rents. That's literally how that works every time. That's how it works. Every time. Michael, thank you for being a member, my friend. You will own nothing and you will be happy. It's true. Well, the first part is you own nothing. Now it's about the happy part. But the own nothing part, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's accurate. Yes.
We essentially allow rich people to choose where they live and to pay tax on all of their assets where they live. But we don't need to do that, right? If a rich person flees the country to try and avoid tax, but they still own.
He just said that fleeing the country is ridiculous, though. That's what he said. Mr. Taz says his slogan is tax wealth, not income. Yes, but the first video you saw, which is a more recent one, he didn't distinguish the two. And he said the wealthy pay no tax. That's what he said. Now, none of those two things are true. Now it's about taxing wealth. Okay, I get it. But if you're taxing wealth, that's your goal. And again, what he said was so much that you have to sell the asset. I'm going by what he said, Mr. Taz. I'm not strawmanning him. He said that so much that they have to sell the asset. Who's going to buy it? And before it gets there, how high the rent's going to go? So you tax the wealth all you want. That's wonderful. Who's paying that? Doesn't make any sense. Yes.
For example, your mortgage or your house or the office you work in, the government can choose to tax those assets. And you might say, well, what if they sell those assets? Well, yes. To be honest, I think in a sense, that's what we want, right? We want you to be able to own the house that you live in without having.
So how are you going to buy that house when the taxes are so high? One of the reasons why people have a terrible cost of living in New York is because the taxes are so high, right? You can have a house here in New York City, example. It's a very broad example, but it's an example as a 20 feet, not acres, 20 feet, not yards, by 100 feet lot. $2 of a house on that lot, and you'll pay $10,000, $12,000 a year in taxes. I'm not joking. That's just taxes. He wants to triple those taxes. So how are you going to buy a house? How are you going to buy the house when you have to, in his world, pay $6,000 a month in taxes for that house? And that's just a house. That's like maybe you can rent out like a basement, maybe. You can maybe rent out a basement if you wanted to and lose some of your house to a renter. Maybe. How are you going to do that? When your taxes are $6,000 a month. I didn't count maintenance. I didn't count mortgage. That's your taxes. That's what he wants. Makes no sense. Michael, you're going to get me canceled off of YouTube. Thank you for the $2. Great Britain is the new special N-word Germany of Europe. They're getting there, aren't they? They're getting there, Michael. You're right. Lunatic is in the house. Thank you for the $10, my friend. We need to retake our country. Dollars will never be a factor again. Money has corrupted humanity because we kill millions a year over it. Is humanity a cheap commodity? Sadly, yes. I wish that was not the case, Lunatic, but I think you know that I'm right on this one. Yes, it is. Why do we not implement destruction? Because people still believe guys like him. People still believe this guy. Lots of them do. 1.2 million subscribers, Lunatic. 1.2 million subscribers. tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views on his videos? Because people believe him. That's the reason why. I hope that makes sense and answers your question. That is the reason why. Because that many people still believe him and think that he has the answer.
To owe a massive mortgage to rich people. We want you to be able to own part of the commercial property in the country and the corporations in this country. At the moment.
So why wouldn't we instead, what I talk about constantly, which you hear me speak about all the time, instead of trying to tax the hell out of people until they're forced to sell their assets, why wouldn't we encourage, again, let me be very clear. He says they never sell anything. So he said last video, right? They never sell anything. And the last video was a newer video than this. This one's 2 years old. That was like 10 months old, 9 months old. So the one I showed first was a more recent video where he said, we tax them until they're all gone, have to sell everything, right? Why wouldn't we do that? When instead, we can encourage people and big wealthy people to invest in things that are rent to own. I've said that more than once. Instead of taxing them heavily, tax them less if they do rent to own. What would that do? Well, if they just do rentals, which many of them do, they get taxed at X, whatever X is. Don't do rental. Do rent to own. Do that, your tax rate's less or whatever the case may be. If that goes down, right, and they go, okay, fine, we'll do that. We'll still make our money. We'll make our money. We don't pay tax. We'll make our money on the back end. We'll do it. We're still making cash. They're going to make cash. Great. The government won't mess with us. We're not going to pay heavy taxes. And now what happens? Those new assets that are created are now in the hands of the working and middle class. I've just made that. I just gave you a way of doing it without having to brutally punish people or raise rents and raise taxes. I gave you another way. There's more, but that was just one. I'll give you another idea. What if instead you supported finance in supporting co-ops? Yeah, businesses go under all the time. Businesses sell all the time. I'm sorry, according to him, no rich people sell anything ever. That's what he said, which is utterly not true, demonstrably false. So if they were actually selling things, why wouldn't you encourage financiers to finance co-ops? What is a co-op? It's when the workers own. It's when the workers own the business. Why wouldn't you encourage that? Then the workers could own the asset. They own the business, right? Co-ops, let the workers own it. You'd encourage it, not force it, not tax them to oblivion. Here's the problem. You make taxes that high, how in the world is a co-op going to be created? The people can't afford it. When you make taxes this high, only the wealthy will be able to pay the taxes or scam out of the taxes or sue the government to not pay them or tell the government, you do it right, change the laws, or I'll pay to primary someone against you. I just gave you two ways that you could do it. Yes. Right? Phil, thank you for being a member, my friend. He brings you right up. He says, co-ops are difficult to set up legally. That's government, not the private sector. Correct. So make that easier. Talk about it. Support it so that the employees could purchase businesses. Then what would happen? They'd own more assets. It's not magic. It can't be done. He's like, no, but punish the wealthy. First off, they're not going to be punished. They're just not. Right? It's not a thing. It doesn't work. They just leave, which he said is ridiculous, and then admit it, they leave. Yeah. Michael, thank you for being a member, my friend. He says, our local grocery store here is owned by the employees. Ohio chain. What's wrong with that? I love that idea. Now everyone gets to enjoy capitalism. Let everyone enjoy it. My issue is let everyone enjoy it, not just the wealthy. How about that? Give the people assets. Let them get it. Give them the best chance to create more assets. Create more assets and make some people don't want ownership, right? Some people don't want ownership. I get it. I'm not forcing you to have ownership. Some people want to go to work, do their 8 hours, and then come home and get the check. I got it. Not mad at you for that. Do your thing. Some people, to his point, and to Michael's point, I get, would want to own their own part of their business, would want to own the company. Give them the opportunity. Allow it to happen. Phil goes on here in New York, Stewart Shops, gives employees stock options. The stock options are nice. I like that. That's good. But I'd also like co-ops. I like stock options, right? That's a good choice. Maybe you give them options. Maybe you don't want to be part of the company. You don't want to be part of the worker co-op, council. You don't want that. Okay. Stock options. Okay. Just get your paycheck. No ownership. You pick. But if we had more options for people, is he talking about that? No. That's what you should be talking about. You want people to start saying, I have choices, right? I have choices in my professional life. Do I want to have ownership? Do I just want a paycheck? Do I want shares? Whatever the case. Do I want to not do anything and be a contractor? Awesome. You could do that. Absolutely. Kim says, do you really think the wealthy are going to give up any control? It's taken over 100 years for the system to be put in place. They're not giving it back. No, they're not giving it back at all. They would still make money anyway. Remember, as I mentioned, he keeps saying asset, which is true. But real estate is no longer the biggest asset that the wealthy in America have. The wealthy in America, the biggest asset they have is actually cash in private equity. Private equity is about one thing, return. Private equity isn't worried about ownership. They will take ownership if that gives them a return. They'll take no ownership if it will give them a return. That's all private equity is concerned about. Ownership is a means to an end. Ownership is not for ownership's sake when it comes to private equity. Return is what matters. So if return comes from not owning an asset, but by selling it off and getting the cash back in, that's how I get a return from my investors, I'll do that. Most people don't understand that. They're not paying attention, but that's how it actually works. So if the government creates an environment where it makes sense to sell off the assets to the working class, and they'll make more return because there'll be less of a tax burden, well, then they'll do it. Not because they care about the people, Kim, they don't. Not because they care about control, they don't. They care about return. Make it to where they get the best return for doing the right thing, and they'll do the right thing. Again, not because they care about the right thing, but because that's the best return. So, Michael, thank you for $10, my friend. Gary should convince the British Parliament to make him firer of the new evil. Okay, yes. You mean leader. Yes, I know the word you meant. Yes, it is a German word that starts with an F. It goes F-U-R-H-E-R with the umlaut. That is correct. Yes, that's what you meant. Yeah. So look, if they did, he'd be fine. You're right. He would take care of everything. I think you're right, Michael. He would. Absolutely. So yeah, let me keep going here.
These rich people, they own your country. They own your mortgage. They own your house, right? And even if they leave, they will still own your country, your mortgage on your house and your country.
Yes. And he just said it was ridiculous that they would leave.
You can choose to tax them on the asset. So really, it's very, very simple. It's a question of, do you want your country to be owned by people who pay tax?
Dummies. Simple.
And
Dummies.
If you do, then it doesn't matter where they go because
doesn't matter.
It's your country, and you can.
Doesn't matter. It's your country. Doesn't matter.
Ask the people who own your country to pay tax on those assets. So I think it's very, very simple, really. And I think it all comes down to this. Roman Abramovich was not able to put Chelsea Football Club in a bag. And these rich people, no matter where they go, this country will still exist, and the assets will still exist, and they can be taxed here. And I think when you understand it like that, you realize it's actually very simple. Of course, we can tax them, and that raises the question: well, why don't we then? And
yeah, why don't we? That's a good question. Why don't we? Yeah.
There are a lot of possible reasons why that could be, but I'm going to give you a couple of suggested reasons. Number one, Rishi Sunak is the 222nd richest man in the country. He's worth over £700 million. His father-in-law is one of the richest men in the entire world.
By the way, that guy, if you don't know, at the time of this recording, this guy, Rishi Sunak, was the prime minister of the UK. He's part of the Conservative Party. So at the time, the guy he's talking about was the prime minister of the UK. He is no longer, but was at this time.
And he chooses the tax laws.
So he just chooses the tax laws. I didn't know that. So Rishi Sunak just chooses tax laws. That's what you just said. That's how England works. You become prime minister, he goes, tax laws this. He said that. This guy has 1.2 million followers. He just said that. That's the reason. Because Rishi Sunak is rich and he just chooses tax laws. Well, if that's true, then why doesn't Rishi say no tax on people named Rishi? If that's true, if your name's Rishi, no tax on you, because I'm Rishi Sunak and I choose tax laws. That's what he just said.
The previous Prime Minister, David Cameron, made £10 million within a year of leaving office, and he made the tax laws. Tony Blair, I think he's worth...
He made the tax laws. So before him, Cameron just made tax laws. I had no idea how that works in Britain. Mike Long, you were right. They're going to make these guys the leader. They're going to make them the top dogs, the dictators. They just choose tax laws. This guy says it one more time. 1.2 million followers.
About £100 million, and he made the tax laws. So we are putting the tax law decisions entirely in the hands of people who are multimillionaires or maybe even billionaires, And then they're telling us we'd love to raise tax on rich people, but unfortunately, it's just totally impossible. And unfortunately,
okay, if it's impossible, then it's not simple. If it's impossible, then it's not easy.
People are believing it. Don't believe it because we can tax them. It's in our power, and we can do it. All we need is to
is it in our power, or does Rishi just make the tax laws? Which one of those two is true?
Come together, and all agree that that's what we're going to do. So yeah, support the channel, tell your friends, tell your family.
Support the channel, give me more money because capitalism is great, but I'm a communist. Michael, for $10. So his appearance creates an image in my mind of someone that lounges in sweatpants and a t-shirt who got up late after enough partying, and he's not even dressed to be an economist. Well, he's trying to be like you, Michael. See, he's like you. He wears a t-shirt and sweats like you do. So you got to believe he's the working class guy like you. See? That's why. He's the working class guy like you, Michael. Believe what he has to say, even though it makes no sense. I'm just listening to this, and clearly it is just factually incorrect, hyperbole at best, direct lies at worst. He's not dumb. This guy is not stupid. So it's not like he knows he's saying something that's wrong. So yeah, that's absolutely true. All right. I don't know. Yeah, that's really bad. So his whole idea of the rich leaving is the part that, of course, drives me nuts. And he does a whole thing on that too, right? And 1.2 million subscribers. So yeah, he's been on the news. He's been all over the place. I just wanted to cover this guy because of that. Let me grab some comments if I could. The reality of this is, I'm not, if we're going to have taxes, and clearly we are, I'm not against taxing the rich at the same rate as anybody else. I'm not worried at all. That's a fine thing. If we're going to have taxes, it should be fair. Agreed, right? Obviously, I don't like taxes, but if we're going to have them, it should be fair. He's right when he didn't say it, but let's say what is right. It's true. How about that? It's true that by percentage, the very wealthy pay less than the middle class, even the upper middle class. That's true by percentage. Accurate. And if you were to tell me, Larry, I would like a flat tax where everyone pays the same amount, I'm not against that if we're going to have tax, right? I get that. But what he's saying is hyperbole. What he's saying is, let's hate the rich. Let's make them bad and mean. Let's make them the enemy. And what I'm saying, instead of trying to pull the rich down, why don't we pull everyone else up? Instead of making this like a zero-sum game, and he should know better. He's supposedly an economist. He should know better that it's not a zero-sum game, that you can make more assets. In fact, we do make more assets every single day. So make a system to where the working class and the middle class can get a chunk of their own assets. As I said, like co-ops, like rent-to-own, and things like that. I mean, there's tons of ways you could do it, that you can give people more of an opportunity to gain some type of asset. I agree, right? Generational wealth is a real thing, and we should be looking for it. Of course we should be. And sadly, we're not. We're instead just getting mad and blaming somebody else for everything. And that's the problem. So let me keep going on. Guys, if you're liking this so far, I'm going to grab some comments now. Please click the button known as Lima India Kilo Echo. Please pick that button if you would. It does matter tremendously. Please do it. And if you haven't already shared it, please share it into something. Whatever you want to share it into, please do so. It does matter, right? If you haven't already followed me, please follow me on all the things. And if you can become a member, please do so. Become a member, $49 per month. Click that join button on YouTube, or you can do it on Rumble if you'd like to at $49. Also, you can click that subscribe button. If you want to head over to Patreon, $10. If you're going to go Patreon, give me the big dollars, $10 per month. No worries. Facebook, if you want to, Larry Sharpe Facebook, $1.99 per month. Lots of ways to support the channel. You can see it right there. But the easiest way is to click that button known as like. Cheap, fast, easiest. Sharing is also good. Reposting is also good. Remember something. If you are a member, you get to submit reaction videos like this. Let me know what you want. You can see it. How do you figure this out? Easy. You head onto YouTube and you go to posts, and there are certain posts that can only be seen by members. If you can't see the post, you're not a member. But if you're a member, you can see the post, and the post says, hey, if you want to put a reaction video, put it here or email it here. You get it because you're a member. Members can see those posts. Those are member-only posts. That's how you can do it when you are a member. That is the way. So, all right, let me grab some of this if I can. All righty. John, something if a member literally says no. Well, that's kind of true. Yes, he's right. Taxing the rich is not going to make everybody, is not always going to fix inequality. But he says it is. And it isn't. It just isn't. So Kim says, taxing them will fix nothing, but I bet if we took their keys to their money machine, that would fix a ton. Agreed. Agreed. Yes. Michael, thank you for being a member. If we tax 100% of Musk's wealth and the next 4 multi-billionaires down, it would just barely pay the annual interest on the deficit. Correct. It's not enough. We have to make a fundamental change. 100% a fundamental change. That's the critical aspect that we are not doing, and we need to. We need to be making a fundamental change. 100%. Yes. So, all righty. If I can go down here. Rick, thank you for being a member. He says, to take an apocryphal quote from Stalin, I rarely hear that word, there is no problem that death can't solve. Well, if it was him, it could have worked. So, yes. There we go. So, yes. That's true. I mean, that does kind of anything. You're not wrong on that. So, yeah. All right. Joseph says, they wouldn't even spend that money on us, lol. Yes, even if they did, they wouldn't. You're right. Even if they did, they wouldn't spend it. 100%. Yes. All righty. Let me go down here a couple more of these if I can. Oh, Joseph says I reposted on X. Thank you, my friend. Every single one. Yes. Roy says, RFK Jr.'s cure for inequality. He has a cure for inequality? Is his fact-based is his cure for autism? Well, he doesn't have one yet, Roy. You're making a jump. You're making a jump. I know you like beating up RFK Jr., but you're making a jump. We'll see. He said by September he'll know the cause, and he's gonna have a cure soon. So we'll see. Look, I don't know if he's gonna have a cure. I've said it before. I don't know. Am I happy that he's looking for one? I am. But we'll know in September. He said September, so give him to October. He said September. Give him to October. If he's got something in October, you might be eating your words, Roy. I'm just saying you might be. But if he doesn't, look, I'll say it. If he's full of it, I'll be right here saying it. And if he's not, I'm gonna say that too. So we'll know in October. That's what I'm gonna tell you, Roy. We will know in October. That's what I can say. We'll know in October. All righty. Ray from nowhere says UBI consumption tax. You know, there is. I'm starting to think that UBI is more and more likely in America because I think so many people talk about it now and feel like it's the way to redistribute wealth. I'm still not a real fan, Ray, to be very full with you. Just because I say it's going to happen doesn't mean I'm a fan of it. I feel like there's got to be a better way. I don't think America is ready for UBI. Now, look, I'm open to being convinced that I'm wrong here, right? Milton Friedman talked about UBI. Some libertarians talk about UBI. I just don't see it. I see UBI as you brought UBI. Let me cover it then. If we were to do a UBI, for those who don't know, UBI is universal basic income. It means every single American gets a basic living check every month. It is made for you to just survive. It's not made for you to do well. It's made for you to survive. In theory, it could be the same to everybody. It could be based upon where you live. Who knows how they would do it? In theory, it's the same amount everywhere. So for sake of argument, it's what Andrew Yang said was $1,000 a month or whatever the number is. Say it's $2,000 a month. I'm making that up. $2,000 a month. Everyone gets that. Now you might go, I can't live on that. Well, that isn't the point. It's enough money so that you can just survive. If you want to have a job, you still get your money no matter what. You get your money no matter what. So if you go off and get a job that pays you $4,000 a month, you now get $6,000 a month. You get your money no matter what. Doesn't matter what you do. If you want to lay around and watch TV all day, you can. You got to survive with $2,000 a month. That's how that works. If you want to live with somebody, well, then they also get $2,000 a month. You can live together and they get $4,000 a month. Okay, you want to go work and more. You don't. You sit in your house all day and live with $4,000 a month. That's what it's supposed to be like. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm saying what it is. In theory, the reason why some libertarians were for this, because again, in theory, I'm not saying practice, in theory, all of the forms of government assistance would go away. So there'd be no Social Security, there'd be no welfare, no EBT, no SSDI, nothing. It's just one thing. You get the money no matter what. That's it. So if, again, I'm being very clear, if that were true, I could understand it because you'd be removing all of that bureaucracy, all gone. All the people who work there gone, the building sold, everything's gone. There's no need for a welfare system at the state level, at the government level. The welfare state is destroyed in theory. I got to keep saying in theory. The whole thing is destroyed, and your government sends a check to every citizen, $2,000 a month, have a nice day. Now, if I honestly believe that would happen, I don't believe that. I might be open to it. I might be. I could be convinced. But here's what I know is going to happen, Ray. If we did a UBI, it's just in addition to all the same garbage we already have. That's number one. And then not just that, it'll also then be, well, see, I'm special because I'm a veteran. So I don't need $2,000 a month. I need $2,200 a month. Oh, I'm special because I got 2 kids and he's only got 1 kid. So I need $2,400 a month. And then back and forth. And now all of a sudden you might go, well, that wouldn't happen. They would just say no. Okay, but I'm a veteran block. And we're going to vote for the guy in the primary who agrees to change UBI for veterans to $2,100 a month. He's doing it. Of course he is. Of course he is. And then working moms will have their own special thing. And single moms will have their special thing. And guys who, have been, who've lost the leg will have their certain thing. And guys who are blind will another thing. Yeah, that's what will actually happen. So if I honestly believe that would not happen, I'd be open to it. I could be convinced, right? As a better way of doing things. I'm not convinced yet. That's what I would say. I'm not convinced. Michael, thank you for $10. So in Great Britain, if you have the LP with the majority of seats, Greens with the next bunch of seats, and the Labour Party with the minority of remaining seats, they decide who gets what in the executive. Yes, right. Well, according to him, the prime minister just chooses the tax. That's what he said. The economist said that, Michael. He was wrong, Michael. That's not true. But that's what he said. Yes, the majority of seats is what makes things work, right? That's how it actually works. So you would be correct. Libertarians would be deciding that. It'd be amazing if libertarians actually were able to win something like that. That would be amazing. That'd be awesome. So, oh my God, coming in hot. The man himself, Garrett, is coming in hot. I appreciate Garrett. 10 Sharpe memberships. Guys, grab those memberships. I'm guessing a bunch of you did not make $2 million a month. Remember the rules. The rules have changed. It used to be if you made $10 million, you couldn't take his membership. It's changed because of Gary the Economist. It's now, if you have passive income of $2 million per year, you may not take Garrett's membership. If you make $2 million per month in passive income, you got to buy your own membership. Okay? Don't be greedy. All of you people who are watching who make $2 million in passive income every month. For those of you who do, you may not take the membership. Everybody else, you may take Garrett's membership. Garrett, thank you so much. And then he put in 5 more. Guys, throw it all in. Grab them to the best of your ability. Membership matters. Why does membership matter? Membership matters because you get to submit reaction vids. Plus, I'm looking now if I can find it. I think it is going to be, it might be, if I can find it right here. I am considering doing my members show on May 2nd, Friday at May 2nd. So I think I'll be doing the membership for Friday, May 2nd, which is not this Friday, but next Friday. So I'll be putting that out. If you want to jump on and be here with me on the show Friday, May 2nd, members can do it. I'll be posting that probably tomorrow or the day after, seeing if you want to pop on, let me know, and you'll be able to jump on. So yes, membership does matter. Guys, if you can do that, please do so. It does really matter. I appreciate it. And Garrett, of course, killing it as always, my friend. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate that. So, all right, let me grab some more of these if I could. All righty. Anthony says, if people stopped doing things after they made their first million, we wouldn't have as many multimillionaires as we do now. Correct. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Yeah, I agree completely. Mike says the pie isn't fixed. Correct. It is not. It is not fixed at all. Yes, 100%. So I do appreciate that, guys. So Mr. Taz got mad at me. He said, we get it. We get it. Stop pausing the video every 5 seconds. Dude, that's why you're on my channel. So I can pause it every 5 seconds and tell you some witty quip. Otherwise, why are you watching me? You got to go watch it. You could just watch his video if you want to. Don't do it. But you could. He's got 1.2 million people who watch it. Anyway, yes. I'm a little jelly. It's true. I'm a little bit jelly. It's absolutely true. Yes. Just saying. I'm a little bit jelly. Yeah. Roy says, billionaires don't get rich in a vacuum. True. The system they live in allows it. True. So billionaires should pay their fair share into the system. True. Rather than making the middle class fund their share. No argument with me, Roy. If you want to make a system, which we do not have now, to where everyone's paying the same percentage and that they're actually paying the percentage they're supposed to pay, I'm in. I'm not fighting you. I'm with you. What's happening is he is saying they pay no tax. He said that. That's disingenuous. It makes people hate the rich for no reason. It's not true. The other reasons they're not like them because they skew the system is true. But there is a truth that they are paying less by percentage. That's accurate. They are paying less by percentage, but it's not zero. So if you were to say, Larry, I'm going to advocate for a system to where everyone pays the same percentage, I'm in. No argument for me. What he's saying is disingenuous. That's the issue. So, any case. All righty. Casso Killer says, Larry has a wicked widow's peak. I do, and I keep it on purpose. Don't be jelly about how good looking I am. I'm jelly because he has so many followers. I want his followers, but I'm not jelly about my looks. I am better looking than him. So yes, and I think you're jelly. And it's fine, you can be. I'm a good looking man. Some people get jealous of that. I understand. So yes, we can keep going. So yes. All right. Andrea says, who would build if the rich didn't? Good point. Well, in his eyes, Andrea, government would. That is what he sees, right? And a lot of people do see that. Yes. Joel says, Warren and Sanders used to tell us to hate millionaires. Then we found out they were millionaires. And they tell us to hate billionaires. True. Also accurate. Absolutely true. So hate whoever they aren't. That's the answer. Hate whoever they aren't. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. 100%. Goofy Goober says, take from the greatest producers, but only an amount they can part with without taking reason away from them to continue producing. The Laffer curve. That concept makes sense, right? I get the concept, but you could just do what Roy's talking about. Just make it fair. How about that? Just make it fair. Simple and fair. I'm not against that. That's not a bad deal at all. Not a bad deal at all. Yes. So, all righty. Let's see here. Kim says, we don't really need all those extravagant buildings. As long as the average person is chasing the carrot of riches, this will not change. The carrot chases fuel them. I think that's true, but I'm not against them as long as they're not harming other people, right? And some people want an extravagant building. Okay, you can get that if you want to. I'm not against you doing that. You should do what you see fit, right? You should do what you see fit as you see it. I'm not mad either way, as long as you're not forcing us. Have the most extravagant building you want, Kim, or not. I think both are fine. And I think some people, they thrive on that kind of thing, right? I think they thrive on it. Yeah. So, okay, let me keep going down here if I can. Gene says, I went to someone's house on Sunday who said we need to raise the minimum wage. Sounds like a good idea. Except the problem isn't the amount of money a person makes. The problem is the value of the money that people make. True, good point. Now, I get that concept completely. Again, that seems to make sense. Raise minimum wage, and then people will have more money. You could do that. That's something that people could do. The problem with that here is when you start doing just raising minimum wage and you're not making any of the changes, you just make everything more expensive, right? If you're going to raise minimum wage, you have to make other changes to make it valuable. Like you're saying, that the money has to be valuable. That's it. Phil says, my parents always paid as much in taxes as they did on their mortgage. They're selling because they can't afford to keep paying their property taxes in retirement. Yes. You remember my whole plan, Phil, about keeping people here in New York State is by cutting their property tax in half. So they'll stay. And his answer is tax the assets now. Well, then you're taxing assets of the middle class too. Are you only is in his world you only tax the assets of people who have high net worth? Is that how he would like say, okay, if you have net worth value, then if you buy something, your tax rate on that asset is 3 times anybody else's? So you're saying you're a second-class citizen. I'm not joking if that's what he's saying. because you make tons of money. I guess that makes sense to him, right? He's been on, if you ever watched him, he's actually been on several debates, and all he ever does is dodge. Maybe I'll show one of those. All he does is dodge. He'll just dodge and dodge and dodge. That's what he does, right? I saw him once before. He was on the Diary of a CEO. Was it? Yeah, Diary of a CEO. He was on that because he's also British. And it was like two guys, and then one's talking about capitalism and working, and one guy's talking about him, that kind of thing. And all he did was dodge and insult and dodge and insult, right? You see people who lean left when they go to arguments, they lead with that. They lead with dismissing. They lead with dismissing so that everything the person says is that you're bad, right? Everything the person says is bad. Doesn't matter, no matter what it is. It's all bad. Wade says, reduce the majority of government influence and bear the consequences of your actions. You get out of life what you put into it. Government has no right to your earnings. All transactions are mutually agreed upon by all parties involved. I like the concept, but the reality of it is to be forward, Wade. I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm being forward. Sometimes people have problems. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes because of their actions. And sometimes it's just bad luck. Sometimes it's a combo, right? So you do want to have systems. I just think it should be community systems that help when people fall down, right? And they will. The people will gamble and make a mistake. People will just get unlucky, bad timing, get hit by a car. Things will happen. So I think you do want to have some form of assistance. I just think it should be much more of a community voluntarily assistance, which I think has worked in the past and can do it again. So yes. Andrew says, instead of tearing down the Goliaths, why not make more Davids? I remember, Larry. Thank you, Andrew. That was one of my sayings. I would say, I don't want to tear down all the Goliaths. I just want to make a whole bunch of Davids. Let's just make a bunch of Davids. And then they, by default, will take down the Goliaths. And they'll become Goliaths themselves. And then they'll be taken down. That's what should happen. If we make an environment to create literally thousands, if not millions, of Davids, if you make that environment, then the Goliaths will be taken down on their own. That's how to work. Roy, I don't know if he likes the David idea. He says, David, stay Davids, as long as they elect Goliaths who protect Goliaths at the expense of Davids. True. Again, I'm not fighting you, Roy. I'm not fighting you. Yes, that's accurate. So let's change the environment so that that's not what works. I'm with you. I agree. Yes. Lunatic says, UBI is a tax on labor. You still don't own your outcomes professionally. I'm not a huge fan, Lunatic. I'm just saying I'm recognizing that more and more people are talking about it. More and more people think it's an answer. And if it's going to be a thing and I can't stop it, we have to find the right answer. That's what I'm saying. So yeah. Rick says, they can remember, knowing the cause isn't the same as a cure, but it's a crucial link on the chain that leads to a cure. Oh, talking about RFK Jr. Yeah. Look. Again, I don't know if he's going to find the cause. I don't. Do I hope so? Yes. Like Rick, I really hope he does it. If you see how I am, I'm not rooting for people to fail. That's not who I am. I want the country to do well. I want Trump to succeed. I do. Not because I love Trump. I don't. Because if he succeeds, the country succeeds. I wanted Biden to succeed. And I said it openly back then. I said the same thing I said about Trump, I said about Biden. I wanted him to succeed. Clearly he didn't. Why? Because I love Biden? No. Because if he succeeded, the country did. The country did not succeed under Biden. The country was a disaster under Biden. He failed. Therefore, we failed. So I want Trump to succeed. Not because I love Trump, because the country succeeds. Right? People are actually hoping he fails. I don't hope he fails. I hope he succeeds. Do I think he will? Maybe. So far, this tariff thing not working out well for him at all. Now, will I change my mind next month when he has all his great deals? Well, we'll see. So far, I don't see great deals. But yeah, I could be wrong, Rick. If all of a sudden next month, he's got all these great deals and America's rocking and rolling, then I'll say, great, he did well. I'll move on. Life is good. If not, remember what I said. I gave him 90 days. I said that. I said, if it was real, if this was really his plan overall, within 90 days, he will have a whole bunch of deals closed. So far, not looking good. But I said 90 days. I still got like, 30 left? No, 60 left? Whatever I got. I got like 60 days left. Whatever I got 60 left. Whatever that number is. I have a bunch of days still left. I'm going to give him the 90 days. That's what I said. That's what I'll do. If he comes back and goes, look, America, I got all these great deals. Look at how awesome we are. The economy's rocking and rolling. I'll be the first one to give him credit. I'll be out here saying, yep, look, he said it. He did it. Awesome. Look how great he is. We're winning. Win, win, win. I'm not tired of winning. Keep winning, Trump. If we come back, 90 days and he's like, well, see, we were gonna, but Democrats are bad, but Biden's evil. Nope. No, you were full of it the whole time. That's what we'll see. RFK, same thing. He says September. Okay, I'm going to give you to October. And if he's got the cause and it's believable, I'm going to be like, Roy, time for a sorry. Just saying, Roy, I'm going to ask you for a sorry if that's true. If it's not true, I'm going to say, Roy, you were right. That's what I'll say. So I hope he finds the cause, not because I care that he's successful personally, because it's better for the country if he does. It's better for the humans in this country who are concerned and worried and have people on a spectrum in their life. I hope he does find it. And I hope we get some closure and maybe some repairs and maybe some cures. That would be amazing. I hope it would be. So that's where I am. Yep. Patty says UBI would help me right now since my stroke. Yeah, and that's my point, Patty. I think we don't have, and I'm sorry about that, by the way. I'm hoping that things get better for you. If UBI was a way, if we could make it to where we actually didn't have to spend extra money, but we could just use UBI to help people only, and it could replace all the forms. And you know this, Patty. You've been around this world. I've been around this world. The systems that are in this world are made to be corrupt. The advantage of UBI. Now, I'm going to say some positive about UBI. The advantage of UBI, it's really hard to scam it. Can you? Yes, you can. But it's really hard to scam it. Why? It's grossly simple. Are you an American citizen? Yes. Here's your money. Now, can you get like fake citizens? You can, of course, but if you get caught, you're gone. So it's easy to figure out if you're a fake citizen. Easier, right? So that's number one. So harder to fake that, harder to scam. Could you like keep your cousin on it when your cousin has left the country or whatever? Yeah, it's possible. You could, but it's harder. Now it's full of scams. So it's harder to scam. So I would say that is a good thing. See, there's something there. There we go. Jataz says the world's billionaires collectively own around 16 trillion. Okay. 3.2 trillion owned by American billionaires. Okay. I didn't check this. I believe you. Americans' total debt is 33 trillion. It's actually 36, I think. 6. Pete, where are you, brother? I need you now. It's 36 trillion, I think. The question I have is who owns that debt? About half of that debt is owned by America, give or take. About half that is owned by foreign countries and such. I think our biggest debtor, I think now is, it's Japan. Japan or China. They're always in the top 2 and 3. Japan and China in the top 2 and 3. The top 1 and 2, sorry. Japan and China. I don't remember which one owns the most, but one of those two. And they're always next to each other. So in the top 3 will always be Japan and China. They own the most. So hope that answers your question. So, all righty. Let's see here. Wade says, in reference to UBI, I would change it to everyone being able to keep their land, grow their own food, and create their own energy without interference from government. This way the takers become makers if they want to eat. UBI will put humanity to sheep to sleep for life. That is my worry. That's my worry. Yeah, that is my concern. So, all righty. Will says, over 50 years, wages stagnated while the top 1% tripled their share of wealth and home prices double relative to income. Yes, you're right, Will. I agree. UBI isn't about dependency. It's about giving people a fair shot in a rigged game. Yes, but if I have look, if that's my only option, Will, if there's no other option, okay. But if there's another option, I would rather make an option to kind of follow more of what Wade's talking about. Giving people more ownership and control so that their wealth and income goes up, right? I would rather do that. The biggest time frames and reasons when the wealth gap grew is government intervention for when things collapsed. So let's stop that, right? Let's stop that. So yeah, but I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. Absolutely. All righty. Let me grab a couple more of these. Oh, that was you already. You went on YouTube and said the same thing. Okay, yeah. I think that was, or maybe WJA Darrigan says over the last 50 years, the top 1% doubled their share of U.S. wealth from about 15% to 30%, while the bottom 80% dropped to 10%. Yes, again, not saying you're wrong. I'm agreeing with what you're saying. I'm agreeing with what he's saying. I'm just saying his answer is not the right answer. There is a massive, and here is my best example of this. New York State. New York State has some of the most government interference in everything. Patty is struggling in New York State. New York State spends some of the most money on all these programs. Over half of people in New York State are on Medicaid or Medicare. Most of them, so most of it's government funded, right? Another huge chunk who aren't on Medicaid and Medicare are under government sponsored because they work for the government in some way, shape, or form, a huge chunk, right? Not just that. The healthcare system run by the government, which Patty's struggling with right now. The education system run by the government, which healthcare now, which Patty does with that right now. These are all things the government runs. We have some of the highest taxes in the state, not all. We have some of the highest unionized, the highest percent of unionization, except I think Hawaii might be higher than us. Otherwise, we're one of the highest unionized states. And people are leaving left and right. They won't stay. And we have the worst wealth gap of all the states. New York State does. The worst wealth gap. We are the closest to what he said. We were considering doing that tax on the wealth. We were considering doing it. I told you about the story. I told you if you were listening, Cuomo thought about doing it. And the New York Stock Exchange threatened to become the Texas Stock Exchange. And Goldman Sachs threatened to move to Miami. They just leave. It's what happens. They just leave. His country, Britain, lost 10,000 millionaires last year. New York State lost like 2,000. New York City lost like 2,000. They just leave. So I'm not saying you're wrong. You are correct. I'm saying that answer is the wrong answer. That's all I'm saying. But I'm not fighting what you're saying. You are correct. Yes. John says, Larry, what if you tied UBI to money collected from tariffs? Look, I actually had a plan like this. If you remember, my plan for New York State was to create a negative income tax. And you pay for the negative income tax with the New York State Sovereign Fund, right? The New York State Social Trust, which is the NIST, the New York State Social Trust. You create that. Socialism works great when you have someone else's money. Amazing. Then it's wonderful, right? If you got somebody else's money, so socialism is awesome. Love it. Love it. What's the examples of that? Singapore and Norway. Singapore and Norway have massive sovereign funds. $1 trillion for like 5 million people. I'm not making that up. For us to have that kind of sovereign fund, I mean, America would have to have like a $70 trillion, give or take, like a $70 trillion. Yeah, to have the same amount, we have to have like a $70 trillion fund, something like that, some insane amount. We're 36 trillion in debt. For us to be like Norway, we'd have to have $70 trillion in a fund making money. If you got $70 trillion in a fund making money, you get UBI, you get UBI, you get UBI. Okay, what do I care? I got $70 trillion making money every year. I'm making that passive income we talked about. Give it out. I'm with you. Do it. That was part of my goal. Now, the plan I had for New York State was we create the social trust. Within 4 years, you should be able to easily pay for education. Pay for education, about half of all property tax in New York State is school tax. You end school tax, which cuts property tax in half. Done. Within 2-3 years, you can do that. After that, the next thing you do is you create your own negative income tax. Negative income tax basically says everyone gets a flat fee, but negative income tax is a little bit different. UBI is everyone gets a check. Negative income tax is anyone who makes under a certain amount of money makes some money to make up to that. So, sake of argument, it's $36,000 a year. Sake of argument. So you want to get people to $36,000 a year. So if you make no money, $0, you get $18,000 a year. You just get a check. Comes from the NIST, to your point, no taxpayer dollars, comes from the NIST, everyone gets it. You get 18 grand a year. So you get. You go, well, Larry, that sounds nice. Yeah, about $1,500 a month. So you get. Now, but Larry, what if I work? You report your work quarterly, how much money you're making, whatever much money you make. For every $2 you make, you lose $1 of UBI. So you're able to work your way off of it to a point where at one point when you're actually making $36,000 a year or more, you get nothing. So you can work your way up to making 36K or more. Now that number can change. That's a concept you could use, and the money's coming from this. So no taxpayer dollars are coming out of it, not taxpayer dollars. It's coming into New York, people who live in New York State, and they get the cash as they move their way up. Eventually, once they have $36,000 or more, they don't get anything anymore. They just get to go on. Now, can you choose that amount? Yeah. Now, that would only be state. So if you got federal money, you still might get federal money, maybe. The federal government will probably change. They'll probably shift that. It'll also change how you deal with your other issues. Medicaid, Medicare might shift on that too. It would depend. So you could do it if it's not taxpayer dollars. The only way that a libertarian would accept this kind of plan is if it's a negative income tax, which Friedman talked about, and if it doesn't come from taxpayer dollars. You could do it. It is possible. I think it is possible. I mentioned it. So yeah, you could do it. But imagine if you were getting 18 grand a year and you could work your way off it. As you make more money, you move your way up towards it till you can make $36,000 or more. Not bad. Not bad at all. You can do it. So anyway, just want to give that to you guys. So that's something you could do. It could be done. That's what I'm saying. And John says, agreed. Yes, absolutely. 100%. So WJ Dragon says, this also happened with as wealth concentrated, life expectancy for the poor barely rose or even declined, or the rich now live 12, 15 years longer. Yeah, because they eat better and they're healthier. True. They have, look, this is the point that I want to bring up, WJ Dragon. Socialists want Medicare for all. They think, and they tell you, privatize, capitalism is bad, whatever. But to your point, the wealthy, what kind of healthcare do they have? Privatized government, privatized system. They don't go to government program. They're not Medicaid, Medicare. They don't do that. They write a check. They have the best healthcare. Yes. So I don't want to give Medicare for all. I want to give awesome private sector to all. That's what I want to do. Why would I do Medicare? Do you think in any way, if they instituted Medicare for all, that the wealthy would go, okay, guess I'm doing Medicare? No. They would just go to a private doctor. If they made that illegal, if they actually made it illegal, which I guess they could, the wealthy would just leave the country and go someplace else for medical care and pay someplace else because they're wealthy. They would fly to Canada, fly to Mexico, fly to wherever. They fly someplace else. And what else would happen? Well, they're not going to get American care. Yeah, they would, because all the best doctors would leave America because they can't make any money. And they go someplace else where they can make tons of cash. That's what they would do. So yes, of course. Of course they would. So yeah, I agree with you on that. I totally do. I absolutely do agree with that. Yes. Joel says, don't panic and grab a towel. I do get it. I do get it. And the answer, by the way, is 42. So just so you know, the answer is 42. That's what the question is. That's the answer, though. Absolutely true. Guys, I'm going to ask you one more time. Click that button known as like. It does matter. If you can, please share or repost this now. Every time you do it, more people grow. This can grow. I want to happen. I hope you enjoyed my comments on this. You guys asked me to react to them. I did. I hope I made sense in what I was talking about. I hope you see how things can change. Here's what I'm going to ask you to remember. Remember, after this is over, please leave a comment. And please tell me what you think about UBI or negative income tax, taxation in general. Any of those three, UBI, negative income tax, or taxation in general. Do it for the rich. I don't mind. And what you think about it, because we talked about it today, if you can, I'd appreciate that. Please do that after the live. Come back, put that in. I will respond, I promise. And if you happen to be watching this and it's not live, once it's over, you're going to see 2 videos. Pick one of those 2 videos. Click and watch at least 8-10 minutes of that, please. Algo loves that too. I will be back on tomorrow, 7 p.m. I will see you all very soon.